Welcome to this fascinating journey into human physiology. Today, we're going to explore the very beginning of human development, implantation and pregnancy. We will discover how a tiny cluster of cells anchors itself to create a lifeline, and how the mother's body undergoes massive, miraculous adaptations to support new life. Let us dive in and uncover the biology and the mathematics behind these incredible processes. To start our journey, imagine trying to plant a delicate seed in a garden. If you just drop it on the surface, it will wash away. It needs to be gently buried in nutrient-rich soil to take root. In human physiology, implantation is exactly like this crucial gardening step. About 6 to 7 days after fertilization, the blastocyst, a hollow ball of dividing cells, must physically attach and embed itself into the endometrial lining of the uterus. The outer layer, called the trophoblast, secretes enzymes to burrow deep into the maternal tissue, laying the groundwork for the placenta. Now that we understand how the blastocyst embeds itself, we must ask, why is this exact moment so critical? First, implantation establishes the physical lifeline between mother and fetus, which is absolutely necessary for survival. But just as importantly, the moment implantation occurs, the trophoblast cells begin secreting a hormone called human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG. This hormone acts as a massive biological stop signal to the mother's menstrual cycle. It prevents the shedding of the uterine lining. Without this secure attachment and the resulting hormonal signal, the pregnancy simply cannot proceed. This biological signal we just discussed does not just appear, it multiplies rapidly. To monitor whether implantation is successful, doctors measure HCG levels, which grow exponentially in a healthy early pregnancy. We can represent this growth mathematically. The formula is HF equals HI times 2 to the power of T over D. Here, HF is the final hormone concentration, and HI is the initial concentration. The variable T stands for the time elapsed between blood tests, and D represents the hormone's doubling time, typically 2 days. As time increases, the exponent grows, causing the hormone level to multiply incredibly fast. If the actual lab results match this calculation, the doctor knows the trophoblast is functioning perfectly. Before we move on, let us see this formula in action with a concrete clinical example. Suppose a patient has an initial HCG level of 50 milli-international units per milliliter on Monday morning. The doctor wants to check her levels exactly 6 days later, on Sunday. We know the standard doubling time is 2 days. We plug these values into our equation. First, we divide the 6 days elapsed by the 2-day doubling time, which tells us exactly 3 full doubling cycles have occurred. We then calculate 2 to the power of 3, which is 8, and multiply it by our initial value of 50. The expected final concentration is 400. If her Sunday test shows this number, the embryo is securely implanted and thriving. Now that we have calculated the hormonal signals, let us visualize the physical event that triggers them. On screen is a detailed diagram of the blastocyst implanting into the endometrium. On the left, you can see the blastocyst, which is that hollow ball of cells. Notice the outer layer, the trophoblast, actively burrowing into the pink uterine wall on the right. The arrows indicate the direction of invasion. Deep within the endometrium, you can see the maternal blood vessels. As the trophoblast merges with these vessels, it establishes the critical physical lifeline we discussed earlier, allowing oxygen and nutrients to flow to the embryo and releasing HCG into the mother's bloodstream. With implantation successfully complete, the body enters a new phase. Think of a woman's body before pregnancy as a house built perfectly for one person. All systems are calibrated for a single resident. Now, imagine a new tenant moves in, growing rapidly every single day. To keep everyone healthy, the house must undergo massive renovations. Pregnancy is exactly like this massive renovation project. Over the 40-week gestation period, the mother's body undergoes profound physiological changes to support the growing fetus. These changes are driven by massive hormonal shifts, primarily estrogen and progesterone, which are eventually managed by the placenta. Every organ system shifts its baseline function to accommodate this new life. Building on this idea of a physiological renovation, let us look at exactly what changes inside the mother's body. The adaptations are systemic and extreme. Her blood volume increases by up to 50% to ensure the fetus receives enough nutrients. Her breathing rate deepens significantly to expel the extra carbon dioxide produced by the fetus. Her kidneys must filter blood much faster to clear away fetal waste. Understanding these changes is vital for doctors because what is considered perfectly normal for a pregnant woman, like a rapid heart rate and slightly dropped blood pressure, would often be considered a sign of medical shock in a non-pregnant person. Recognizing these adaptations ensures proper medical care. Because these physiological changes happen on a strict biological timeline, tracking that timeline is essential. One of the most important calculations in pregnancy is determining the estimated date of delivery, or EDD. Doctors worldwide use a standard medical formula called Nagel's rule. The formula calculates the delivery day, month, and year based on the first day of the mother's last menstrual period, or LMP. To find the delivery day, DEDD, we add 7 to the LMP day. For the month, MEDD, we subtract 3 from the LMP month. Finally, for the year, YEDD, we add 1 to the LMP year. This simple arithmetic perfectly approximates the standard 280-day gestation period. Now that we have the formula, let us calculate a due date together. A patient reports that the first day of her last menstrual period was September 10th, 2023. We start by breaking this date down into our variables. The day is 10, the month is 9 for September, and the year is 2023. First, we add the standard 7 days to the initial day of 10, giving us 17. Next, we subtract 3 months from September, which takes us back to June, the 6th month. Finally, we add 1 year to 2023, giving us 2024. The final estimated date of delivery is June 17th, 2024. So, we have successfully used Nagel's rule, but you might be wondering where this specific arithmetic comes from. Let us break down the mathematical logic behind it. A standard human gestation period is exactly 280 days, which equals 40 weeks. If we convert 40 weeks into months, it is roughly 9 months and 7 days. Now, instead of counting forward 9 months on a calendar, which can be tedious, we use a mathematical shortcut. Adding 9 months to any date is exactly the same as subtracting 3 months and then adding 1 full year. Therefore, by adding 7 days, subtracting 3 months, and adding 1 year, the doctor is perfectly adding 280 days to the starting date. Now that we know how to track the timeline of pregnancy, let us look at how these physiological changes unfold over those 40 weeks. On screen is a graph tracking 3 major adaptations. The horizontal axis represents the weeks of pregnancy, and the vertical axis shows the percentage increase from the mother's non-pregnant baseline. Notice the green curve representing HCG levels. It spikes exponentially in the first trimester, exactly as we calculated earlier, before dropping off. Meanwhile, the red curve for cardiac output and the blue curve for blood volume rise steadily and remain elevated throughout the entire pregnancy. This visual perfectly captures the massive, sustained biological effort required to support a growing fetus. We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. Let us review the key takeaways. First, we learned that implantation is the critical anchoring of the blastocyst into the uterine wall, which establishes a lifeline and triggers the release of HCG. Second, we saw how HCG grows exponentially to halt the menstrual cycle, a process we can track mathematically. Third, we explored how pregnancy forces the mother's body to undergo massive systemic adaptations, increasing blood volume and cardiac output to support the fetus. Finally, we used Nagel's rule to calculate the estimated date of delivery, perfectly approximating the 280-day gestation period. You now understand both the biology and the math behind the incredible journey of early development.